Thanks for coming out this morning. We're on a job site here. We're in a brand new classroom, first classroom installed, and you may see that you have a tile form product, and a lot of times that's mistaken for being traditional VCT or vinyl composition tile. This is actually MCT, which is Marmoleum Composition Tile, which is a natural product. Company that makes it is called Forbo, and there's some uniqueness about it, and that's why we're here on day one to make sure that as far as the floor care and the daily care of this floor, that there's some things that are a little bit different than maybe some of the traditional care that you might be familiar with. First of all, the product has been around about 150 years. Forbo is the largest linoleum manufacturer. This is actually real linoleum. It just is in a tile form. There's a couple things about this that stands aside from other products out there. First of all, it's made from natural ingredients. You ask, well, how does that benefit me? Because there's a lot of spokes of thought of how a product was selected. Floor care is one of them, but also how it affects the stakeholders in a building and actually return on investment. So this product been around, like I say, 150 years. It's made from natural ingredients. Linseed oil, which comes from a flax seed. That's that and pine rosin or pine sap is cooked. That's the binder. This product has about 34% wood in it. It's wood flour, finely ground sawdust. Has a little bit of limestone, colored pigment. This particular one has a backing. The carrier is a polyester. That polyester backing is meant to make this tile dimensionally stable. After it's manufactured, it goes through a process where they make a linoleum granule. It's pressed in a calendar. That's what makes this unique marbleization. So this is a random marbleization in this product. The marbleization helps guys scratch and scuffs a little better than a solid color. But the big benefit that comes from the factory is a factory applied finish. It's called Top Shield 2. That's a two-coat system. If you were to look at linoleum under a microscope, it actually has, it looks like mountaintops. It's a texture to it. So we apply a factory primer coat that's UV cured. That basically, in essence, smooths out the mountaintop. Then we apply another factory finish to Top Shield 2, which is semi-strippable. Means that if you maintain this floor, you don't have to, we don't recommend that you put finish on it initially. We recommend that you just clean it with a neutral cleaner. That factory finish is inherent in the floor. So if we were to scrub this floor, we're not going to remove that finish by scrubbing. So when we get into this, actually is a great place to start. This is day one. This floor was installed a couple days ago. So this is typical what you may see on a construction site. If you look around, it is a construction site. So there's dust. This is set into a hard set adhesive. That glue, when they set the tile in it, sometimes some of that glue comes through the joint. And you can see, if you look at the floor closely, you can see little spots of glue. It's not a big issue. We're going to clean this floor and it's going to readily remove itself. There's a lot of angles of thought about this, but sometimes less is better. What we're looking to do is first get the loose particles off the floor. Best the way to do that is through a Swiffer or a microfiber mop where you dust the floor. Then we're going to take a neutral cleaner, which when you think about cleaners, they all have a pH value. That goes from 1 to 14. 7 is neutral. It's a pretty generic term for floor care. Neutral cleaner. That's what we recommend. Then such as we have a whole product line of that, but if you go to Tasky or Johnson, everybody has a neutral cleaner. We're going to take that neutral cleaner. There's a couple ways to clean it. I would say that we have a little bit of equipment with us, but this is pretty generic. What most janitor's closet would have would be a wet vac and a low-speed scrubber. You don't have to high-speed burnish this floor or anything like that you might be familiar with. What we're going to do is we're going to take a neutral cleaner. We're going to mop it on the floor because remember, this is a construction site, so this is a little dirtier than it normally would be. So we're going to actually give this cleaner some dwell time. We're going to put some cleaning solution on this. We've already dust mopped it, sort of like when you see the cooking shows, you know, we already did it in advance, so it's already been swept. We're going to take some neutral cleaner, we're going to apply it to the floor. What that does is it allows the dwell time actually loosens any dirt that's on the floor. It suspends that dirt off the floor. So when we scrub it, we're going to use a low speed buffer, which is 175 RPM. We don't want to use anything high speed. That 175, there's different pads that go on that, and they're usually color coordinated by aggression. When you start with a white, that's just a polishing pad. Really don't clean with a polishing pad. You go into reds, and there's a lot of manufacturers of that, but typically the darker the color is, the more aggression it is. But what you want is just a typical cleaning pad. We're going to use a red pad, which is not very abrasive at all. So the thing about the Top Shield 2 that's on here, things have a hard time clinging to that floor. This floor is antibacterial, antimicrobial. When we start throwing them kind of buzzwords out, you say, well, how does that affect me? It means that bacteria's MRSA, staph, it can't colonize on the floor. So for the stakeholders in a building, that's a pretty big benefit. It's one of the things you don't really see in the front end. Secondly, with that Top Shield 2, that's a factory applied finish. You'll notice that it doesn't have a lot of shine to it. That's by design. When you have a matte finish, it is a little more forgiving, whether it be undulation in the floor, micro scratches in the floor, or fractures in the finish. You don't see it as readily on something that's matte. And again, we're going to take this red pad, which has very little aggression, but that Top Shield finish doesn't allow things to latch onto it too easily. So when we scrub it with this, it's going to lift that off, and then we're going to vacuum it up. This is just a microfiber dust mop. We dust mop the floor. We get the particulates off the floor that we can. We don't want sand and grit. When we're scrubbing, we don't want that grit on the floor being scratched into the surface. So we've taken a neutral cleaner, and we actually mixed it to 1 ounce per gallon, but you can look at the mix ratios. That's a big thing. Again, one of the schools of thought is more is better. I see people mix cleaning solutions at whatever ratio they want. If you've ever been in a movie theater and you kind of lose your shoes, they've over-mixed the solution. If you look at a soap dispenser in the bathroom, it's usually the dirtiest place. Dirt clings to that soap when it's not mixing the right dilution. This is 1 ounce per gallon. We're going to apply that to the floor, and then we're going to scrub the floor. We're not going to take a 5-gallon bucket and just dump it on this floor. It wouldn't hurt it because it's set into a hard set adhesive. But you want to be cautious that you're not really soaking the floor. We're just going to do a little runway here. One of the questions that comes up is that I heard you say the product is 34% wood. It is 34% wood. And a lot of times people say, well, if it's wood, it can't withstand water. It's not the case with the linoleum. It has a protective finish. It's set into a solid barrier of adhesive. Different than other applications on installation, when this tile is seated into the glue, it's into a solid membrane of adhesive. So water can't get down underneath of it. It will not penetrate it. With other installations, pressure sensitive adhesives, that kind of stuff, there's venues for water to collect underneath of it. So the hygiene, the promotion of bacteria and stuff underneath of the floor doesn't happen the way that this is installed. It is going to withstand topical water. So we're going to take this red pad, I'm not, hard to believe I'm not breaking a sweat, but I'm just slowly going over it. And if you look, if you happen to see a spot that has a little glue on it, it gives me the luxury to stop on that and to scrub a little extra. One of the big mistakes that happens is what do we do from this point right here is that we have put a clean solution on the floor, Now the dirt has suspended itself within that water, and it's a little tough just to mop that up, because what we're doing when we're just mopping the floor now, we're actually transferring that dirty mop water throughout the floor. So what we want to do is we want to recover this dirty mop water. This is just a squeegee head on a vacuum. As easy as it sounds, that's actually the initial cleaning for a construction site cleaning. We would come and I would damp. This squeegee does leave sometimes the lines where the squeegee was. You can come back with just clear water and damp mop this just to get rid of any streaks maybe on there. But that's the cleaning process for the initial construction cleaning. That, whether that happens on your hand or before you take hold of the building, this would be the worst case scenario, what I just did. I would say that what you're probably concerned about is a day-to-day cleaning. This is going to be a schoolroom setting. You're going to have desk. You're not going to be your manpower is limited. The time that you have to go on the floor is limited. You're probably not going to be in here with a scrubber every Monday night. What you're going to do is the biggest challenge in a school is scratches and scuffs. Chairs are sliding. There's grit that comes in the building. It gets beneath the chairs and it scratches. With the matte finish, it does help guise that more. It's not as apparent. What you're going to do in here is dust mop the floor every day. If you happen to have spills, I don't know if they eat their lunch in the classroom or not, but if you have spills, you would address them before you did any kind of mopping. It's usually a 2-mop system. Someone comes in and mops the floor with a neutral cleaner. My recommendation would be to maybe implement the microfiber pad cleaning system, healthy high performance cleaning, which they have, if you will, like a dish tray of clean applicators, and then where they put them in a dirty one. So when you come into a classroom, you would start with a new applicator, a microfiber mop head. Actually, it's like little fingers on there. It has a lot more scrubbing surface. Damp mop the floor with that, and then change it room to room, and then you don't have the scenario where you're having to go change the mop water back and forth. You are going to have time to time, Christmas time, end of year, beginning of school, whatever, you're going to have, if you will, a spring cleaning. That's where you would come in, and maybe you've got some concentration of dirt at a doorway or something like that. By taking a neutral cleaner, giving it some dwell time, coming back with a scrub pad, it will remove that. I would say that in most school systems, you all have an auto scrubber. Do you use auto scrubbers?
Yes.
Okay. So the auto scrubber has some great benefits. One, it drops the solution, it scrubs it, and it backs it up. Basically what I did here was I applied the solution, I scrubbed it, and then I vacuumed it. This is an all-in-one, and it's instantaneous when it drops it, and it's driving through in corridors, places where you have more concentrated traffic. It is nice because by the time they get into the room, most of the dirt is off their feet in the doorways. One of the things that we encourage is the implementation of preventing dirt coming in the building. So walk-off systems, it's been proven that if you have 10 feet of walk-off, you reduce 65% of dirt coming in a building. There's studies out there about what it costs to remove a pound of dirt out of a building. It's pretty extensive. But the auto scrubber in the hallways and wherever you can get to it, cafeterias, things like that, yes, that's a great idea. From there, that's kind of it. I mean, I will say that I encourage you to have the environmental services person that is on staff here or within the school system. We have an extensive floor care. It's 2 days up in Hazleton, Pennsylvania. We have one in Dallas, Texas. You come in, it's not just our product, but you learn a lot about the floor care in general. There's a lot more awareness now about how the people in the building are affected. There's cost of ownership. When you talk about this floor, you notice there's some things I didn't talk about, which was stripping and applying finish. We don't recommend, this floor doesn't have to be stripped. We don't recommend it. That's usually one of the front end mistakes people make, is thinking they have to strip it and apply finish. This is occupancy ready floor. Once I just did this here, we can move the furniture in. That's ready to go. When you start talking about what it costs an end user or a building owner to maintain a floor, you have to go from A to Z, not just what it costs. Cost ownership isn't just what you pay day one, it's what you pay to keep that floor up to get the return on investment. There's case studies, I think at Florida, maybe a college in Florida has a case study on this particular product. But when you don't have to strip a floor, and you don't have to apply finish, you've removed the cost of buying them chemicals, more importantly the manpower, and also the safety related things when you start talking about air quality and slips and falls. There's a lot of things that are considered when this was purchased. Any questions?
So you recommend no finish?
No finish.
Through the lifetime?
Well, if you maintain this finish, there is going to be, say this front door, let's say that it snowed here and there's salt coming in the building. That salt has a surfactant to it and it scratches the floor. You could clean this floor, and if you took a spray buff solution, snapback, something like that. Well, a spray buff actually is a spritzed on cleaner and finish. What that does is that when that is buffed with that machine here, the 175, you have a red pad, that actually dries that spray buff into them scratches. So if you kept the floor wherever there was breaches on the finish with spray buff, we've got facilities that are 8 years old that have actually the first generation of the Top Shield, not Top Shield 2. Top Shield 2 is enhanced from Top Shield 1. They've never applied finish, but in essence, when you spray buff at high traffic areas, you are applying a finish, but it's very minute amount. You're just maintaining that finish. What we're trying to stay away from is when a typical VCT installation, at day of install, they finish this, you would come in and strip this floor and apply a couple, 3, 5 coats of finish. During that 3 to 5 coats of application, you're hoping that no one walks through it, you're hoping that no dust gets in it, and all of these things. And then if something happens in that application, you got to strip it back down to get to where you have a smooth finish. The cost of that, the shutdown time, all that's big. That's a big cost factor. This is a occupancy ready, factory applied finish. If you maintain it, keep it clean, spray buff occasionally where it needs it, you wouldn't be applying new finish to it. Any other questions?
How long do you leave your neutral cleaner on? Is there a certain amount of time?
I usually leave it about 6 minutes. But if it happened to be left there, as long as it's wet when you're scrubbing, you just don't want it to dry out. As long as it's wet, you can put it on instantly and start scrubbing right away. This is going to clean up readily. This is not going to be a labor-intensive thing. You saw that pad has very little friction to it. It basically rolls the dirt and everything right off the floor. The key to it to me is having something to recover the dirty mop water. What usually happens is they have this and that alone, and then they take a Scotch-Brite pad or something and trying to clean it in, and they're putting too much pressure in one spot. This is a uniform scrub. I don't think you're going to have any issue with it. One of the other things that you may want to consider in the school, I know this is a first time around, they're probably just now furnishing this building. Looking at the casters, what the chair glides are made of. Want to look into that and make sure that we have something that isn't a sharp point load. Sometimes we build a new school and we have to implement old furniture. Some of the legs are broken off. We got metal scratching on the floor. If you have that, obviously that can create damage. So we want to look at the glides as well, make sure they're up to date.